again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say.
Welcome along to NUFC Matters. This is a Steve Wraith true crime interview with Brian Rolfe. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on. And the reason we got you on the show is I managed to come across this on Facebook, advertising The Lost Essex Boy, which is the true story of Craig Rolfe, who was your brother.
Yes,
the book, the story was told to Simon Morrell, the storytellers, and this book comes out in August. You'll be able to find this on Amazon, and I just can't wait for this to come out, to be perfectly honest. Anybody who doesn't know the story of the Rettendon murders, which took place on the 6th of December 1995 in Essex, I'm sure you will be able to Google that and find out more. There are lots of books and there have been lots of films made about this particular murder. And I think it just fascinates me that, you finally decided to come out and tell your story, part of the victim's family. Why have you decided to come out now, Brian, and tell this story?
Well, going back 21 years ago, I was sitting indoors with my wife and I had a knock on the front door. That night at night, I opened the front door. There's a lady from Cosmopolitan magazine, and she offered me £10,000 to, tell a story of my brother. But I wasn't interested. What happened. It's memories for everyone. So I kept out of it and I kept off the Facebook side of it. But recently we've been watching the films and the way people betraying Craig as the idiot, and then watching some of the remarks that some of these book selling people keep making. Now, I know both of them. I'm not going to mention names. I know them quite well. And a lot of it is lies. It's their story they want out of life to make their money. So that's up to them. So I thought, no, I'm going to tell everyone the truth about Craig. He was the clever one out of the lot. All right, he wasn't the main muscle. He wasn't scared of people, and he'd fight anyone. So if I come in friends with Tony was the muscle, the nightclub man. But Kane was clever with his head with the drug side until he got onto coke, and then that was when he started going a different way in life. I've lost your volume.
What was Craig like as a young boy? Let's go back to the start. We've touched already on what happened, but let's go back to the start. What was he like as a brother growing up with?
Well, Craig was born in prison, as everyone knows, through an error my mother made. He went to school. He got sent to boarding school because I used to have him with me all the time because it was something that I really cared for, and I used to go stealing, so I took him with me. Begging for food, stealing from shops, anything we could do, he was with me. So I lent him down a sort of path at a young age. But anyway, he went to boarding school. It didn't work out. He got picked on a bit and he stabbed a youth in the leg with a compass or a fork, if I remember. Then he got expelled. Then I went to boarding school. I got shipped out away to Dorchester. So I didn't see him for many years until he started growing up. He went to basketball school and you join gangs at school, so you end up fighting about different schools. But he got a career as a tyre fitter. He was going right good for himself. And then he wanted more money in life. So I had a job in London. I got him the job in London. We took him around London one night, me and my friend Mark Randall. And that's how he got into E's. And he knew straight away that he could make money. When you were buying an E in those days for £8 and selling it for 20, that's what he wanted, and that's where he went down that road to not work, get as many as he can, sell it. The posh cars, the flash codes. He didn't want to be struggling every week. So that's how he went. He went down that road.
Was he going to the raves and stuff like that back in the 90s?
Yeah. We used to go raves all the time. We used to go to abroad sometimes. When the raves were on, he loved it. It was a new craze for all the young lads and young girls in those days. There was no trouble. It was water, the few beers, and it was the pills that everyone was dancing, love, care, affection, getting on with everyone. Not like you used to go nightclubs and there'd be a punch out and everyone join in. You was chucked out by the doorman. The doorman put the slide punch in. Nothing like that. It was a brilliant atmosphere. But it all boiled down to money.
It was one of those, you know, it was called the second summer of love, wasn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And the music and the drugs went hand in hand.
Oh, of course it did. Yeah, but the drugs were Class A drugs, but they were how can you pull it, a mellow drug. There was no violence between the drugs when people took them. There was violence between the dealers because you're on their patch. But then things started getting more heavy. As the E started weighing out, it came to acid tabs and then the hallucinations, people jumping off buildings, think they can climb scaffolding. Then things start getting worse in life. And that's how things were really bad. Then you've got coke and that, heroin. It all come along its own pace.
So how did Craig meet Pat and Tony?
I don't know how he met Pat. I wasn't around when he met Pat, so that's in my book. Tony, it was Rackle's nightclub. Craig wanted to deal in Rackle's nightclub. There was a dealer already in there, which I won't mention his name because he's on the run at the minute. I don't blame the lad. Everyone stuck his name up saying that he didn't do, in my opinion. So Craig wanted to make money. The only way he could make money was to have the doors. And he knew a bloke called Tony was running all the doors. So he wanted to meet Tony. And he went to the gym where Tony trained all the time and actually got to know Tony. Now, the doors come to Craig, but he had to pay 4K for them. And that was a lot of money. So when he told Mark about the money they had to pay Tony, Mark pulled out, said, I'll supply them to you, but I want no part of it. Well, Craig kept doing it and making big money at each nightclub and raves and that. Then Tony thought, hey, I can have another second chance here. I've got the muscle. He's got the brains. We get the pills from London. Let's make some big money.
And it all seemed to be going so well, I guess, from their perspective, because, you know, you're making money, you know, you can buy things that, you know, lots of people doing a 9 to 5 can't do. And, you know, it just seems too good to be true. And of course it is. Yeah. Take us through what you potentially you know about that situation that developed. Did he confide in you? Did he speak to you about how how things were going? Was there any signs that things were going to take a turn for the worst?
No, I mean, at start things were going good. You could see with the money on his table, it was making good money. His clothes and that. People blame Pat that took him the wrong way. I don't really know. I think greed. You know, where it's like you put a bet on a horse and you win £100, but you're not satisfied with that £100. You want to put that £100 on another horse to win £200. It become greed and paranoid. And the more money they made, the more they wanted, and that's what destroyed them. They ended up robbing people because they couldn't afford all the pills. It was easier to rob a dealer down the road and make money out of his pack as well as making money your own. So, yeah, it got greedy. Paranoid, I think the police. Now, we're going to go back here. I used to get banker's drafts. Now, I knew someone that was an armed robber. I was introduced to him. He had banker's draft. I was the fraudster of all the lot of them. So I could go and buy a car, a jet ski, a speedboat, a camper van. So the first thing I brought for them was a camper van they wanted. This camper van was to send to Holland with some people, travel over there, bring gear back. That was the idea of it. So I went to Manchester. Prior to this, I found out where a camper van was for sale. It was a nice one. I think it cost 35 grand. So the idea with the banker's draft, you have to have a thing called a ball typewriter. It's like tiny little balls. You can't do a normal typewriter. So in the day, I've done this. I went to Manchester. I met this lovely couple. Took me around the camper van. I given the banker's draft. I arranged this before that I was going to pay a banker's draft. The banker's draft's clear. Every banker's draft that I put out there, the person never lost. The only people that lost were the bankers. And the bankers didn't want to admit to the shareholders they lost 40 bankers' drafts. So there was no real crime. How can you put it? The banks weren't interested in me. The police was more interested in me. So I bought the vehicles. The first one was a camper van. They sent it to Holland with a young couple. And the idea was to bring some gear back and to get 10K. But they got caught coming back through the country. So he got to Canterbury. she went to Holloway prison. So then Tony and Craig begin to think that someone was doing a lot of grassing.
And that's where the paranoia comes in, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah. I think on four occasions they had some deals, and batteries running there, and they got called. There was one day that Craig phoned me up and said to me, "Can I borrow one of your vehicles?" Now, I used to have 3 vehicles: a work vehicle, P100 pickup truck, my own car, an XR2i, and I had a Metro. So Craig phoned me and said, "Can I borrow one of your cars? I'm sending Terry round to pick the car up." His real name's not Terry, but I can't give the person's name at the minute. It's just legal reasons. So he come round, he took the car, never asked any questions what he wanted to borrow the car for. I knew it'd be something dodgy. So he took the car, and about 3 or 4 hours later, Craig phoned me, fuming down the phone, effing and blind at me. "Who you effing spoke to, all this lot? What you on about? I don't understand a single word what you mean." Terry got pulled going through Dartford Tunnel, Essex Drug Squad. They nicked him. 3 kilos of marijuana, I think, or something.
It's okay, mate. I can hear you. I'll let you
I've lost the pictures.
I'll let you sort your technical side out. I'll play some adverts and I'll come back. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, NUFCmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket, where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at NUFCmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from NUFCmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from NUFCmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and Friends, the class of 84, is on at the Town Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Town Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000. And we're back. Got your technical.
I do apologise for that.
Don't worry, mate. So we've got to the bit where you were just talking about Terry getting pulled in the tunnel with the marijuana in the car. So carry on from there.
So Craig phoned me, went a bit loopy, thinking that I mentioned something. then the phone call stopped. About 4 hours later, police turned up, Essex Drug Squad. They come round to me flat, but they didn't nick me for anything. They asked me if the vehicle was mine. They told me what had happened, the person arrested, and they left it and walked away. That was very, very strange. Then I was pulled in again about 2 years later for a vehicle that I was going to buy in Southend. I went to Southend to buy a vehicle, met an old boy that's selling the car, done the deal, went round the next day to pick the car. I got a train there, picked the car up. It was a BMW. When I walked in the house, there was a bloke there, and he said it was his grandson. So that was it. I looked at the paperwork, side of the paper. As soon as I passed that banker's draft over, I got arrested. It was a copper. So how the old boy come to figure out something wasn't right, I do not know. So ended up, I got arrested, put the Southend police station. I was told we were going to put on remand for outstanding cars. While I was in the police station, Essex Drug Police come and see me. An officer called Gary Duckrell come and see me, DC. With an officer we know, everyone knows in Basildon, called Jack Bowler. Now, he told me that if I planted drugs on Craig and that lot, all my charges would go away. So when I was released, I got bail and released, went back home about 7:30. He turned up with his mate and he gave me a bag of capsules, 3,000 capsules. Now, these used to be called rhubarb and custard, Dennis the Menace. Now, he wanted me to put these in Craig's vehicle and all my charges would go away and have a new start in life. So I took one of them out the bag and opened it, and they're empty. And they were laughing at me. I said, "Bri, they're empty. We'll sort that." They were so desperate and so eager to nail those to get them off the streets. But I didn't put them in the car. As people know, I destroyed them and I got arrested in the end and went to court and got a bit of time for it. But that's how bad they were. And that's what made them paranoid. You get some people turn around and say, like, nothing against Colton. He's probably a nice chap. But I was supposed to be in that night. Now, I know for a fact that they wouldn't tell no one nothing, where they were going, what they were doing, or anything. It's all a big guessing game people are making out. Craig's girlfriend, Donna, now she turned around and told the police that Craig went to meet Mickey Steele. Now, Craig wouldn't have told her that. She ran off for a police officer and started a new life. Good luck to her. But I believe the police want them too bad to be off those streets. Now, if I did put those capsules in Craig's car, he could have got 10 years and still been alive now. So partially, I do blame myself to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've written many true crime books. I've studied a lot of gangsters, criminals, drug dealers, north, south, east, and west, and abroad. And to hear you say that, you know, the police asked you to do that's no surprise to me. It may shock some of the viewers. People might think that you know, they're all upstanding officers in all of these, but sadly, you know, there's good and bad in everybody. There's good and bad villains. There's good and bad police officers. There's good and bad judges. You know, so the good and bad prison officers. The list goes on. There's good and bad in everybody, and ultimately, it doesn't surprise me to hear that. Getting to the fateful night of the shooting. Can you remember where you were? What you were doing?
Yes, I was working in Barrow-in-Furness. I got a phone call from my mother the next day and told what happened. I couldn't believe it. I was told to stay away in Barrow-in-Furness until things were sorted. About January time, I was arrested by Basildon police. Come and got me. Picked me up in Barrow-in-Furness, took me all the way back to Essex. But we stopped at a place called Alfreton in Derbyshire. I stayed in the police cell that night. The officers stayed in digs because of the amount of travelling had been done. One of the officers was called Jack Bowler. When I got to Basildon police station, I was asked questions about the murder. I didn't know anything, and I still don't know anything, who done it or why. But Jack said to me as I was letting me go out, he said, "It had to be done." That was his last words to me. And when I come out, Channel 4 were there waiting, and I'd done a little bit on Channel 4 with Bernard. So that's the only thing. But when you go back now, the officers that are investigating Holmes and Steele's release, he can't find any record of me being arrested in Southend police station. and he can't find me any record of me being arrested in Barrow-in-Furness. Everything's disappeared. But Alfreton have got a record of me staying there that night. Everything's disappeared.
How did your mother?
Goes to the top.
How did your mum feel?
We don't talk.
You don't talk.
No,
I mean, I was going to say it must have been a terrible shock to all of the family. I mean, obviously you've mentioned that Holmes and Steele are were both arrested and eventually convicted and serving the sentences, one out, one probably due to come out very, very shortly, we would imagine. What was your feelings when there was a conviction?
Joyful.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy that someone did get found for it, and it proved my doubts wrong, that it wasn't the police, it was someone else. But as the things go along now and more evidence come out, and then you find that Nichols was the main prosecution's witness, which Nichols is not liable to anyone. Some of the stories he comes out, which I do know him from years ago, he's a right big drama queen. So I think he was set up for this as well. But I went to see some people in London. I've done some recording in London a few weeks ago, and they're really, really convinced they are guilty. Yet the majority of people are convinced they're not guilty. So I'm stuck in that middle thinking, who's telling the truth? And will we ever know?
And this is the problem, isn't it? Books after book after book after book has been written about this case. Some by people who were close to it. Some by people who are just simply authors and have got a fascination in it. There's nothing wrong with that. And if people want to write about stuff, they can. It's the way of the world. You say you felt happy that there'd been a conviction. It's going to be hard to take if the convictions at some point get overturned, though. You're back to square one. I mean, there's no guarantees. It is such a confusing case because there's probably more than those two guys who could have potentially been involved in this.
Yeah, I think they upset a lot of people. You with me? I remember once we went to London, and I was driving the car, and they went and robbed some dealers. With me, and when I drove off, I could hear guns being shot. So yeah, they did rip a lot of people off, and they've upset a lot of people. If Holmes would still get off, good luck to them. My concern, they've done their time, whether they're guilty or not guilty. So if people say to me they're guilty, Brian, they've done their time. They've done their time. You can't turn back the clock. And I think the three of them, deep down, it's very hard to say this. I think they had it coming. They pushed and pushed too much. Instead of making your money and just settling back and doing a bit later, it was every single week. Greed, become them. That was their evil. My brother used to be the most lovable kid going. But when he got later on in life and got involved with them, he was the most evil person going. No matter how much you loved him, you couldn't talk to him. You couldn't trust him. You said the slightest thing wrong, he wouldn't hesitate at putting something in your face. I mean, I went round his house one day many years ago, and one of his dealers took a bit of money. For what reason, I don't know. I don't know what amount was taken. And there was 3 in the house, and he called one of the little dealers into the kitchen, and he actually chopped the top of his little finger off with a knife and said to the rest, you ever fucking rip me off? It happened to all of us. And I couldn't believe what I see in his own house with his missus there and his daughter in the house. I don't say they see it, but they were still in the house at the time. That's what he was like. He was so paranoid. It was money for him. That's all it was. Money. Not people, not care, not love, money. But he loved his daughter.
Obviously, there's been lots of films made, and like I said at the top of the show, I was in Rise of the Foot Soldier 3 myself. It's become a franchise. How do you feel about films being made about the death of your brother?
The first one I thought was quite good. To be honest with you, when I see the first edit, it was quite good, and I think they've made them out to be something what there wasn't. I'm not saying there wasn't evil and they wouldn't do this, do that, but so many people like you say, like the Craigs, it's nearly as big as that in a certain extent because there's so many people interested in it, and there's so many people. So if people are making money out of films, and people keep making films, and people keep believing this is what happened, like Marbella and all this lot in Amsterdam, let them go on with it. But then you get to the stage where people are saying, "Well, how many more are you going to make?" You know what I mean? When does it stop? And the actors are good. Terry Stone, I think he plays a brilliant part. So there's good parts, and you think to yourself, did they actually do that? Because I don't know half of it. I'm not going to say I do. I'm not going to come here and lie and say I knew every single thing, because I didn't. They were that secretive, they kept it to themselves.
I mean, we've seen the portrayals by Terry and by Craig. Do you think the fact that those two guys were, well known, they were bodybuilders, and they were big lads, they were the muscle, that maybe that's the reason they've gone down the way of depicting your brother as the the jokey one, the laughy one, the not so intelligent one? Do you think that's the reason they've gone down that particular road, the script writers and the directors?
No, it's the way people portray them.
Hmm.
That's how they've come like that. Because in the first Essex film, he's a normal, quiet hard nut, the same as the rest of them. But beyond that, the rest of the films, he's made out to be the idiot, the Joey, the scared little boy, because people portrayed him like that. Colton made him out that he was an idiot. You with me? Yeah, that's what I mean. See?
Hmm. Yeah, dropping it. He's the one that tests the pills on and that kind of thing. That's the way that he's portrayed, isn't it?
Let's have a guinea pig, and if everything goes wrong, that he's only Rolfe. Let's get rid of him. You know what I mean? But him and Tony were like brothers. Craig looked at Tony like the father figure he never had.
Mm-hmm.
So no, they were close. Pat, like I say, I knew Pat when he's doing his cars years ago, but I never see Pat this side of it. So I got no idea where Pat got his new life from and wanted that much involved in drugs.
I watched the recent documentary. Have you seen it?
No, I didn't watch it.
No. The one on Sky. I mean, again, this documentaries continue to stir the pot. It's an easier way of getting talking heads on. And did we learn anything new? Well, we saw DCI McKelvey, from the Met Police, private investigator now. He came on, and he was talking about various things, which, again, if you follow the story, you've heard it all before. But at the very end of the program, they have a guy who is, we don't know his identity, who said it was all down to him. I mean, is it sensationalism on this kind of documentary? Do you think they just do that, for the documentary purpose? Do you think? I mean, that guy who we don't know his identity, he's going to gain nothing from it. Is it a bit frustrating when he said it had nothing to do with Holmes and Steele? It was to do with him. It's to do with some missing money, some money that was, given to these people to look after. They didn't return it, and that's why they were killed.
There's so many stories. One of the stories that they were after Tony, and the other two were there at the wrong time over a security van. I don't know that. That's another story that someone's come up with. But everyone's making something out of it. Everyone's bringing a different story to the table. So why do stories keep coming? People just keep thinking, well, did that happen? Is that true? Is that not true? The police officer, I do talk to him quite a bit. He does ask some questions. Some I can't tell him, like he asked who Donna's married to. I can't tell him that because that's her life. He's so convinced that they're innocent, and he's got his own crew sorting with the phones and the mobile browser. I don't know. I look at it now that it's gone. Move on. With me, I'm not out to make films and all that out, but I'm out to tell Craig's side of the story. That's what I want to do. Now, whether it's going to be a book or me do a 2-hour video, I wanted people to know what he was like, because everyone sees Craig, like you say, as the idiot, the hanger-on, and you get the other 2 or other 3 or other 4, as many you want to count. Yeah, I offered him out. I threatened to knock him out. And it's rubbish. It is total rubbish. You'll find out in the book about one of them. And the other one, Mr. Colton, Tony blanked him months and months ago because all he wanted to do was borrow money, scrounge. And he got on Tony's nerves. Now, I'm not saying they weren't best of buddies years ago, and they got on well. And with Nigel Ben come to a charity do at our place to raise some money for a Down syndrome boy, my best mate, Mark and Sam's son. Lovely lad. But Colton didn't get invited. Colton didn't get invited to Tony's birthday party. So they fell out. So Colton's come along and he can make the story and come out what he wants and make some good luck to the lad. Good luck to him. But things are coming out now about people and people are thinking, hold on here. What's it this? Someone keeps changing his story every left, right and centre. You got Nipper. I don't know the lad. He said his dad done it. I don't believe that's true. If someone was going to kill some people and he didn't have long to live through some sort of illness, you'd come out of it straight away. You wouldn't wait till your dying day and come out of it. So, no.
It's interesting. I've met Carlton on numerous occasions. You know, got to know him quite well. Got a lot of time for him. I've got to be perfectly honest. I don't know the ins and outs of his relationship other than what he said. Read his books, of course. As for the Nipper story, I've always found that interesting. In the latest documentary that you haven't watched, you know, I genuinely think he believes the story that his dad's told him. I think that's I think that's the best way to describe it. If not, he's a really good actor. I genuinely feel that he's now convinced himself that story that his dad told him, whenever he told him it on his deathbed, as he claims, I think he thinks that's true. You know, I think that's the problem, Brian.
I think he believes. But don't you think what happened to him when they went round and gave him a bit of a smacking about and that? Don't you think his dad might have felt that he let him down? So
possibly
to say that on his last day, put that bit in. I tried, son. I've done this for you. Whether he did it or not, I don't think he did. But to put it into his head, I've done something for you, and that's what he believes. And he probably will believe the rest of his life that. You know. But there's more to this than meets the eye. A lot more to this than meets the eye. I met my brother 2 nights before he was killed. I come down from Barry-in-Furness because everyone thought I was a police informer. And you'll read this in the book, and it proves I wasn't. So I come down, I went to my mother's bungalow, and Craig was there. And we had a cuddle, and he apologised to me, but he was pacing up and down, kept looking at the window at the side of the bungalow, looking out to the car park. And I said, what's wrong with you? Nothing. And he kept pacing up and down. Then he had a baseball bat down the side. So he was worried about something. When we went out to the car, he got in the Range Rover and I got into my car. I was going home. And I opened the passenger's door and he opened the glove compartment, took a gun out the glove compartment. It was 2 nights before he was killed. And he had a brown bag in the passenger's side. He opened the bag and chucked in, and I see at least a kilo of coke there. So when they happened that night, there was no guns found. Doesn't make sense to me, and I know they carry guns. So I think, my opinion, they apparently went to a pub, so the rumour is. They were talking to a 4th man. Maybe the 4th man could have been the hitman. Got in the vehicle with them, had the shooter against them. They couldn't do anything. And then they met the 3rd man who popped them off. I don't know. There's so many stories.
Yeah, and I mean forensics and stuff like that from inside the car. You know, I mean, we're going back to '95 here. Things aren't as advanced as they are now. It is likely that this case will probably never ever get solved, Brian.
No, I don't think it will, because those two can't make a story or do a book because they're licensed, and they'll be on life license, so they can't give their opinion. But they're still, they still convinced they're innocent, and I'm convinced they are. Remember, my mum went to court. I didn't go to the court case. I didn't go to the funeral. How's that for you?
You didn't go to the funeral?
My dear mother told me that if I come to the funeral, I'll be put the same way as my brother.
Wow.
That's what I was told. So I didn't go to the funeral. I went down a week later and went to his grave, but I did not go to the funeral. So for what reason, I don't know. Someone was after me, but I've made inquiries for the last 30 odd years, nearly, you know, and no one's after me at all. But that day I was told I could not go to the funeral because I'd end up the same way as my brother. And that's 20 odd years ago, 28 years ago.
Crazy. Do you think there was a suspicion that you'd been involved in that side of it? You know, I mean, is that possibly a reason?
Well, I was called the grass. Yeah, I was called because two events happened, and I was there. And one time, I'll tell you this, it's in the book, people will see it. When I used to get bankers drafts, if you come to me and said, Brian, I want a Mercedes, I'll say, okay, 10 grand, I'll get you a brand new Mercedes, and I'll get you a Mercedes. So this doorman once said to me, I was in hospital having an operation on my wrist. This doorman said to me, my mate Bernard over there said you can get cars because Bernard went and see him. I said, yeah, I can. And his friend of Tony's. He said to me, he said, can you get me a car? I didn't like the chap, to be honest with you, and I'll be straight. He was an ex-bodybuilder, having some fat moves on his arm where he gave up bodybuilding. He wanted the Merc. He come from Romford. So I cut a long story short, I had word with my brother Craig. He said, yeah, we'll do it. Get 10k off him, get him the Merc. 10k, maybe split it half. No problem. So I met him in Romford. Now, Craig took me to Romford. Met the bloke just across the road from the car dealers, Mercedes car dealers. I walked into the Mercedes car dealers after phoning prior to the deal to sort out the banker's draft. I walked in, looked at the car of the showman, give him the banker's draft, walked to the office to do the paperwork. The officers walked in. Unmarked, unclothed officers, slung me on the bonnet of the car, handcuffed me, took the banker's draft, marched me out the garage. Now, if the bloke's listening who's 10 grand it was, he can clarify this. Marched me out the car dealers. He come running across the road because they were not dressed as police officers. What's going on? Pulled a badge out. Do you know this lad? No, I don't, mate. No, I don't. Go away then. Put me in the police car, in the back. One sat in the back, one sat in the front. He had the 10 grand in cash and the banker's draft. And I thought, Craig was sitting over the road in the car. I thought, I'm nicked here. I'm done. Took me for a drive. No police station. Took me back to my flat. Got out of the car. Give me 8 grand of the cash. Kept to themselves. Give me the banker's draft. And who across the road was watching? My brother. So that made me look like a grass. Yeah.
I mean, did you turn your life around, Brian, after the death of your brother? Did it make you think? I mean, did you turn your life around and get back on track?
No, what it was, and I'll tell you now, when I went to prison, I went to Strangeways. I got shipped out, Strangeways. I wanted to start a new life somewhere else. And because the overflow in prisons down England, they shipped me out as far as they could. Because I wouldn't help the police. They come and see me in prison and said, you ain't helped us, we're going to call you. So they shipped me out to Strangeways. And I met a youth called Delroy Showers. Have you ever heard of him?
I have, yes.
Black youth. And I made right good friends with him. He was in for murder. And he said to me, he said, I know about you. I've heard about you. And that, he said, I'll tell you now, if you don't change your way in life, you'll end up like me. And that was it. And he actually caused the Strangeway riots. He got all the young lads to go and do a trouble in the church. So I'd done that, and I've got transferred to an open prison in Hull, and I said no more. I went to a hostel. I went to Barry Furnace to work. Then I met my wife, and that was it. I changed my life. Well, I got in trouble once. I got done with drink driving and smacking a police officer. I got 3 months in prison, and then since then I've kept my nose clean all the time.
Fantastic.
You know what I mean? It's not like I've been sick and tired of seeing old people in prison that have been coming in and out, or some people from Basel you see, and it's their 3rd or 4th time. They want for me.
So the book, The Lost Essex Boy, you're sick of seeing documentaries, films, inaccuracies, listening to people do podcasts, which has become the norm since lockdown. I guess hearing the story told repetitively and probably sitting, wanting to chuck something through your screen at times. So I guess that's the motivation for doing the book. Has it been, has it been a difficult process for you going back through this?
It's been hard. It's had me in tears, like sitting there. Sometimes you forget about what's happened and you move on. But when you sit there and read from when you're a young kid and the things you've done, the good things as well as the bad things, and you look back and you think, if it weren't for me, he wouldn't be in this boat. I led him to crime, and so did my parents. Well, my mother. She was no angel. Everything we did, from robbing the local butchers to the local restaurant to getting microwaves, anything like that for him, she sold them for us. You with me? She always had a say in it. She always controlled us. And the amount of different boyfriends mother had with his kids, what chance do we have in life? So I sat there, yeah, and it's been hard. I've sat here nights crying, but I've done it. It's made me happy doing it because the book explains a lot about his life and the way he led it. So I'm hoping people do buy it and read it.
What kind of message are you hoping that people get from reading it?
Drugs don't pay, crime don't pay, and some of these youngsters now that are running the streets for dealers, read this and see what happens to you. Think carefully how your life can be destroyed by working for other people and making money for them, and you make the odd decent pair of trainers a few quid in your pocket. No, it don't pay.
It's a great message. It's a powerful message. And I have put these photographs up. Just tell us a little bit about these two photographs before we're finished, Brian.
Oh, that's me there, look, man. There's my younger brother Craig there. Look, yeah, that was our Nan and Granddad's garden. Nan and Granddad's garden. That was. She had a little poodle. I was more close to him than I was my sister and my other brother. So yeah, did I feel sorry for him knowing what happened? No, there was more of a connection between us two than anyone else. And here it's his first drink he ever had in our local welfare club. And I took him clubbing that night. I'll never forget it. Yeah, see him drunk for the first time in his life.
Two really happy memories, mate. Two really happy memories, and that it's good to see you smile because it is tough coming on to a podcast to talk about these kind of things. I'm sure you'll get more offers from bigger podcasters, and I'm sure you'll find it a bit easier as you go along. Really appreciate you coming on and doing.
I've had loads of offers, but I've turned them down. That's the truth. Johnny English keeps phoning me. Nothing. I'm not ready for it. I just thought I'd come on to you because it's a way of promoting my book and way for me to talk to someone who understands something. You try and talk to people that don't understand. It's hard, but to sit there and talk to someone that wants to listen to you and spill your beans and hold back your tears, you know what I mean? It's hard, and every day's hard for me.
I can understand that, Brian, and that's why I reached out to you when I saw the book. And like I said, we've got a green room before we come on. I said to you, this isn't to sensationalize anything. This isn't. There's been too much of that, mate. You know, and I've. You know, I did a lot of true crime stuff during lockdown on this channel, and I promised my viewers that I wouldn't do as much because it's about the victims. And you know, I'm an actor. I've just written and produced and starred in a film which comes out later this year about a notorious family in Newcastle. And for me, I am fully aware that there are victims of crime, those people, the robberies that took place, etc. Because you know, when you're involved in an armed robbery as a victim, you know, you can be traumatized. You know, it happened to me. I was a victim of an armed robbery when I worked in a shop once. So you've got to remember the victims. And as a youngster, I didn't really appreciate that. I was you know, besotted and you know, influenced massively by that whole Cray story. Something I don't regret, but I was pulled in by the glamour and pushed to one side the actual victims, you know, the Jack the Hats, the Mad Axeman, Frank Mitchell and George Cornell. Yeah, fair enough. George Cornell and Jack the Hat and Frank were all criminals themselves, and you know, they'd lived by the sword and died by the sword. But that doesn't make it any easier the families, Brian. And that's why I approached you, because I think, you know, for you, you know, to get your book out is a massive thing for you. I wish you the very best of luck with it. I hope it's acted as the therapy for you, and I hope lots of people buy it, and I hope that message that you want to get across gets out there, because the youth of the day need to read books like this to show that crime doesn't pay and that getting involved in drugs doesn't pay either.
No, it don't. No, you can see if you don't change your life, you'll end up like those sort of people, or a long time in prison. And there's futures out there. There's a wife, there's a house, there's a job, there's a career. That's not careers. That's just making quick money for someone else.
Exactly. Listen, it's been it's been fantastic, Brian. Listen, best of luck with it. Give us a shout when the book's out. I will certainly give it a plug on all of my channels, and I hope you've got a bestseller on your hands. But for now, Brian, Rolf, thanks very much, mate. And, take care, mate. Watch what you're doing.
Thanks for everything. Cheers for having me. See you later.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Mr. Stevens Sayers, I'm arresting you on suspicion of armed robbery. You do not have to say anything. But anything you do say